I built this 100 square foot home gym that has everything my wife and I need to train in it. And this space also had some unique issues we had to overcome. Sound familiar? I realize your gym won't look like mine, so as we go, I'll give you alternative options for each item in various budget ranges as I walk you through all the decisions I made on every piece of equipment in here, from the rack, adjustable bench, dumbbells, bar and plates, and all the little extras I've crammed in to maximize my space. This has been one of my most requested videos, and if you've been following along over the years, you know my gym started back here, and then as we expanded our garage, it had to return back here, so we had a place to train. This space is 10 feet by 10 feet with high ceilings on one side and short 83-inch ceilings on the other. I also didn't want to block the doors because we do bring things in and out of here, so everything in here had to be movable, which means I had to get creative to make it all work, which is the same thing you'll have to do. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and check out the links in the description because those two things will directly help the channel to make more content. All right, the first thing I chose was my rack, which makes sense. It's the centerpiece of your home gym. But we're living in the golden age of home gyms right now, so you've got an almost overwhelming amount of choices. I've reviewed countless compact rack setups that pack a ton of functionality into a small footprint, but we're looking for maximum versatility in a very tight space. That's going to be the theme of every choice we make, but all of our wants and needs are going to be a little bit different. So my choice, PRX's Pro Functional Trainer Rack with the dialed motion cable systems, might not look like yours. I picked this rack because it folds out of the way, literally allowing me to park my car in here, which I would never actually do because I put too much other equipment in here, but I could do it. And even when folded out of the way, it takes up very little space. It's incredibly practical for my situation of creating a highly mobile and flexible gym, which is helped by the fact that PRX does a great job with storage options for all their accessories. When you're limited on space, keeping things off the floor and out of the way becomes a necessity. And since we're trying to keep things practical, you know, ignoring my entire wall of barbells I refuse to compromise on, storage is something we'll keep coming back to. One of the things that really drew me to PRX's folding rack is dialed motions cable systems. I absolutely love those things, and our original review and the updated versions they've collaborated on with PRX are a little more refined in build quality, and when combined with their racks and attachment ecosystem, just makes for an incredibly compact and versatile setup. That doesn't mean it's perfect for everyone though. While PRX offers a few height options, if you want to fold it up, you'll need some additional space, and since PRX is made in the US, they're not going to be your cheapest option. Which brings us to our budget choice, and for this one we're going to go a little more minimalist because our bougie pick can get a little wild. Titan's X3 wall-mounted rack has a lot of height and depth options to choose from, and for under $500 shipped, and realistically less than that because Titan's always running sales, it's a solid deal. You won't find all the bells and whistles of our other choices, but we can bring cables and other attachments into our gym in other ways, so no worries there. You'll still have your pull-up bar. It's a 3x3 rack with 11 gauge steel, so it'll hold up to anyone's abuse, and like with other 3x3 5/8 inch racks we've reviewed, it has west side hole spacing, which gives you 1 inch hole spacing rather than 2 inch in the bench portion of the rack, giving you a little more freedom on where you place your J-cups so you can pick what's most comfortable for you and your build. It's a no frills option, but the savings may give you a little more freedom so you can get creative in other places. Bringing us to my top choice, Reps wall-mounted Aries. With a total depth of 30 inches, not counting the pull-up bar, it's incredibly compact. You've got an 80-inch height option and can even add storage wings and pegboard off the side. To be clear, the wall-mounted Aries is literally just the Aries 2.0, but anchored to your wall. You'll be able to buy the storage wings and pegboard separately if you want to throw them onto another Aries setup. So same heavy stacks, especially if upgraded to make them heavier. It's got dual pull points down low, which are super versatile, and the same thing up top, although I'm not quite as much of a fan of them up high because the linking system can be a little bit awkward. As a 3x3 rack, it's modular, so you can get pretty wild with your build and add onto it as you'd like, and even use attachments from other manufacturers on it, so you'll never be limited with what you can do. Yeah, there's subtle size differences between manufacturers, so some things may fit tight or a little loose, or admittedly not at all, but 3x3 racks are basically future-proof, and a lat pull-down, low row, functional trainer, and a power rack all in the tiny footprint of the Aries is incredible in a space like this. Sure, it might feel a bit cramped at times as you try to move your attachments and trolleys out of each other's ways, and it's not cheap, but Rep's build quality is great for the money, making the Aries hard to beat regardless of how you build it, which is why it's been one of my top 2 choices since its release. The other being Rogue's rack integrated cable systems. The twin stack would be phenomenal in here, and if you have the space, an Indy Rhino setup is debatably the king of versatility, but that Rhino trolley is so big, it won't make a ton of sense in really small spaces. So I'm giving a slight advantage to Rep here because the Aries, with its dual pull points, is a little more versatile than the twin and a little bit smaller too. Now, I realize not everyone is going to purchase an all-in-one style rack with integrated cables and load them up with attachments because 1, they can get pretty pricey, and 2, you may have different space requirements. So let's look at standalone cable options. My budget pick would be Bells of Steel's cable tower, specifically the one using 60mm or 2.3-inch square tubing rather than 3-inch by 3-inch, although 3x3 is an upgrade if you can afford it. Both have small footprints, but the 60mm version has a shorter 80-inch height option. Just realize that means you may end up with range of motion issues on certain movements depending on how you're using it, but you can do so much with those towers because of the dual pull points and attachment ecosystem Bells has built up around them. Dollar for dollar, whether selectorized or plate loaded, in a tight space, it's a great piece, although not perfect. There are better towers out there with more bells and whistles and better build quality. I really like the Adonis, and Rogue CTM1 is great, but obviously they're much more expensive. And like with GetRx's Phoenix Tower, which we have a review coming out on, and Force USA's Tandem Tower, those all have pretty large footprints when you take into consideration their base and the space needed to row off them. If you're looking for much more of a minimalist option, or maybe you're building on a second floor where you can't have huge heavy stacks, the Beyond Power Voltra can do what no weight stack can't. It's essentially the world's most versatile cable machine packed inside an expensive little box. The Voltra uses a direct drive magnetic motor to deliver up to 200 pounds of digital resistance. It's smooth, incredibly portable. You can attach it to almost anything with all the different mounting options. Darko's mount is our favorite. And with all of its various modes, like eccentric mode, where you can add weight to the eccentric portion of the lift, and custom resistance profiles, where you can literally change the resistance curve of an exercise, it's a tinkerer's dream. I've used mine as a counterweight or to make other machines work better, and obviously in about 100 different ways during our workouts, since it can emulate just about any cable movement you want it to. But what I've done is nothing compared to what the community's come up with. It's a pretty amazing device. It's also very expensive. And although Voltras have been around for about 2 years now, none of us truly know how durable they are and how long they'll last. But like I said, this is the golden age of home gyms. Next up is our bench, and my top pick is Prime Shorty because it is by far the most used bench in our gym, which sounds weird to say unless you've been following us for years and saw our bench buyer's guide, where I spent way too much money trying to prove to the internet I know what I'm talking about. The Shorty is an incredibly versatile bench. Please, nobody count how many times I say versatile in this video, because of the amount of attachments that Prime has built up for it over the years. And I'm not even talking about the Smart Arm, which brings the Shorty to a whole new level. If we're talking about trying to be able to do the maximum amount of things in a small space, you'll want an adjustable bench that can utilize attachments. And while it's not perfect, the Shorty is phenomenal. Prime is known for producing some of the best American-made equipment out there, and the Shorty is no exception. The removable head pad ensures the back never gets in the way of exercises and gives your shoulders some space as well. And unlike other larger benches, when facing towards it, you no longer have to get intimate with it. The pad, while a bit slick and narrow at 10.5 inches wide, does make getting into position much easier on incline movements, and it gives your shoulders a bit of room to operate, making the Shorty my favorite bench for incline work. For flat pressing, it's solid, but if you're pressing real heavy weights, you may find the padding to be a bit soft. Where it falls a bit short is, well, literally its length, but that's only been a factor for me on decline movements, and I'm happy with that trade-off because it passes the most important test any bench can undertake, the wife test. It's compact and lightweight, making it easy to move around the gym, which is essential in a small space. And its small footprint has been super useful because it's able to fit and be used where larger benches wouldn't. For example, on our Rhino trainer for incline bench, the only issues you may have with it is its price. Even with code GLUCK saving you 5% at Prime, it's not cheap, especially as you add attachments, and I'm still waiting for that upright storage add-on Prime showed off at Home Gym Con. So we'll address both those things with my budget-ish pick. I guess anything looks budget next to Prime, right? And that's Iron Master's Super Bench Pro. At $500 shipped, it's a little easier to justify, the attachments are less expensive, and it takes all the things we love about Prime's Shorty, the compact footprint, it's easy to adjust, light, and easy to move around, and then Iron Master goes absolutely wild with the attachments. Seriously, this is what everyone else looks to for inspiration. Freak athlete. We'll be reviewing that one soon too, but it's not a coincidence that Freak is using the same tubing size and attachment locking system as Iron Master. I mean, look at the attachments side by side. The Super Bench has been the king of versatility for years, and nobody's quite stolen that crown. And with Iron Master listening to the community and slowly upgrading things over time, for example, they've swapped from cheap plastic hand knobs to knurled metal nuts and changed the vinyl on all of their accessories and the bench over to this new vinyl, which makes their pads feel much more rep-like. And rep, outside of Rogue's Thompson pad variations, makes the best padding for benches. So if you can emulate it, that's probably your best bet. And it gives the Super Bench a more well-rounded feeling during flat and incline presses, whereas before the padding was a bit slippery. Like everything, the Super Bench has its trade-offs. I'd still love if they could make the seat angle adjustable, because with it fixed, it can be awkward at times, and the seat itself is pretty small, which compounds that problem. It also doesn't feature the highest build quality, especially up against something like Prime Shorty, but it's a solid and well done bench, which is why I've kept mine around for years, even though I've got plenty of others to choose from. What about an actual budget option then? Well, the truth is, if you want to live through your workouts, which is kind of important if you're trying to stay fit, after testing dozens, I haven't found any that really stick out to me if you're trying to save money without sacrificing versatility. But let me know if there's any budget options you want me to check out. Bringing us to dumbbells. And although we have a ton of options, this choice may be a little easier because our space limits us. Believe me, I measured, and while I could fit my 4-tier Irwin Strength Citadel dumbbell rack in here, it didn't quite make as much sense as I wanted it to, which is why my Black Widow dumbbell cart's in here holding my top pick, the Rep X Pepin Fast Series. The Repins have quick weight changes, just pop the magnetic pins, slide the rails, and you're good to go. And with a 125-pound max weight, they go heavier than most other options. If you're looking for durability, their entire build is metal. The plates, mechanisms, rails, internals, everything is bolted or welded. The build quality is great. They have the best knurling I've felt on a pair of adjustables. I've used and abused mine, and they've held up very well, excluding maybe some missing paint from me rolling them off a roof and into the woods, because that's a logical test. But anyone that's watched our adjustable dumbbell reviews knows I've done teardowns and drop tests on every adjustable we've tested, not just the ones that'll look good on camera. Sorry, Nuabell. Although I did buy the new Nuabells, so if you'd like to see me do a teardown and drop test on those so we can see how they've improved things, let me know. Yeah, I'm not in love with the adder weights. They clank around during use, and swapping them, like changing the weights on all 4 rails, can be a little tedious. The rings on the adders also seem to really enjoy trying to hold my hand because they're constantly touching them, but reps changing to a new style pin and sending it to all existing customers, which is a testament to their customer service, and it's great to see them listening to the community's feedback. They are pricey though, ranging from $1,100 to $1,500 shipped, depending on how heavy you want to go. So for our budget pick, I'm going to give 2 very different options. First up is Eyes and Link's adjustable dumbbells, because per pound, and yes, I was nerdy enough to do the math, they're the cheapest solid option out there. If they look familiar, it's because they're based on Ironmaster's original design, so you'll see a lot of similarities. They both change weights using locking screws, have square-ish plates, can go heavy, and are incredibly durable. Yeah, they're not the quickest thing out there when it comes to weight changes, but they, like the Quick Locks, are one of the few adjustables that feels almost identical to a fixed dumbbell, and because of their simple full metal build, they should last just about forever. Ironmaster's Quick Locks do feature a better build quality, fit and finish, but you'll have to decide if that's worth about 30% more to you. And listen, there's a ton of good adjustables out there, so if none of these speak to you and you want an in-depth breakdown on the absurd amount of dumbbells I've collected over the years, then check out our dumbbell buyer's guide. Our kind of extreme budget pick is loadable handles. Sure, you need a lot of plates to make them work well, but this one comes with a caveat that while I seriously appreciate you guys trying to put my kids through college by using our affiliate links, seriously, this channel is still alive because of your support. But the used marketplace is always loaded with plates because they last forever. Yeah, some of your plates might be a little worn or not match, but the money you save here, you can spend on another essential, like a curl bar. You didn't think I'd get through an entire video without mentioning curls, did you? Titan's loadable handles have been my budget recommendation for years. They're phenomenal for their price and almost always on sale. Of course, this style of dumbbell isn't perfect. They're long, which can limit your range of motion or just general motion of an exercise. Propping them up and getting into position can be trickier than fancier options, but back before we had all these newfangled options with their fancy mechanisms, they worked just fine, and they still do. What about a barbell though? Once again, we've got a lot of options, but loading plates in tight quarters can be a little awkward. Ideally, you want at least 10 feet to work with, but even that can feel cramped. So we're going to look at shorty bars, which are exactly what they sound like, shorter barbells. With less space to work with, we've got a few unique requirements to address. Number 1 is we want our bar to still be rackable, meaning we can't change the shaft length, so our shorty bars will instead have shorter loadable sleeves. Number 2 is, just because it's a shorty bar doesn't mean I want to sacrifice quality. Luckily, we've got a lot of choices, so my top picks are going to depend on your style of lifting. If you're a power lifter, you'll want an aggressive knurling, and when combined with the best shaft finish there is, stainless steel, you'll end up with a bar with incredible grip that'll never rust. Enter Rogue's Stump Bar. It's just the Ohio Power Bar, which has been the most popular power bar on the market for years, and for good reason, with shorter sleeves. Rogue set the standard on barbells that everyone else tries to live up to, and with their new tighter tolerances and other tweaks, they just keep raising that bar. If you're more into high repetition workouts, maybe you dabble in Olympic lifts where you don't want an aggressive knurl tearing up your hands, then you'll want a multi-purpose bar. And Rep's Colorado Short Bar is, you guessed it, the Colorado bar, one of my wife's favorite barbells with shorter sleeves. The Cerakote finish has held up well on our Colorado bar. The knurling is passive but still grippy, and as a hybrid bar, meaning it's somewhere between a powerlifting bar and a true Olympic weightlifting bar, it has specs and a build that lie somewhere between as well. So rather than the bearings you'll find on an Ollie bar that help with the spin, it has composite bushings, but it still spins well, and those help it cost less. It'll also have a 28.5mm shaft diameter versus the 28mm of an Ollie bar or 29mm of a power bar. Thinner shafts have more whip or flex, which can be helpful during Ollie lifts where you're trying to harness the energy of the bar and use it to your advantage. In powerlifting, you want a thicker bar because they're stiffer, which helps you keep control during those heavy lifts. It's a fantastic bar because it's basically an imported copy of Rogue's Ohio bar, or in this case, the C70S bar, one of the Shorty versions of the Ohio bar. But it's a little less expensive, and Rep's hard chrome sleeves will hold up a little better than Rogue's bright zinc. If you're looking to save some money, Fringe's Mighty Might would be my budget pick. It's not made nearly as well as Rogue's or Rep's, mostly because black zinc isn't a particularly durable finish, so it'll wear down fairly easily. But with Fringe running deals pretty often, you may be able to grab one for a great price. One note on Shorty bars: they all weigh around 30 to 35 pounds rather than the typical 45 pounds. But that's not a huge deal because they just make you look stronger and kind of like a giant when using them. Now, there's almost an overwhelming amount of things that go into making a great barbell. So if you ever want to know more, there's this really nerdy guy on YouTube that you should check out. All right, we've got shorter sleeves, but we still need to load those bars up with weight, right? Now we need compact plates, or I think I'm going to start calling them Shorty plates because it seems like a lot more fun. Imagine how confused newbies would be when you tell them they need some Shorty plates. All right, in reality, you don't need any special weights for a small space. Again, shop used, save some money, and get any Olympic size plate that fits your bar. But if you're worried about running out of real estate on your bar, you've got some options. X-Master makes some beautiful thin chrome plates. We prefer the version with the handles because that chrome can be a bit slick, but the finish holds up really well. They're incredibly accurate, not calibrated, but close enough, I think, even for the vast majority of people competing. And of course, being a premium option, it even says so on some of my plates, so it's got to be true, they're pricey. A few tips with X-Master. Don't Google it. Trust me, just click my link and use code GLUCK to save you 5%, just like it will with our second pick, Weighted Out's cast iron plates. The thinnest plates on the market. What I like about these is you can get them in various colors. They're a little bit cheaper than X-Master and made in the US. If you're looking for thin bumpers, you'll want urethanes, and oddly enough, Rogue has become the budget option, which means there's no budget option. I've had my Rogue urethanes for probably about 5 years now, and they've held up great. And to be honest, many urethane bumpers being sold are coming from the same place, but not all of them do. At this point, we all realize my best skill is self-promotion, so of course, I made a wildly over-the-top video dissecting all the best bumper plate options. Now, a home gym wouldn't be complete unless we packed in so many extras our wives started questioning whether we were collecting things or working out, right? So let's take a look at a few of the things I've got in here that let me get a little bit more out of this space. Freak Athletes Hyper Pro, or whatever they're calling the 11th version of this thing. A new one seems to come out every year. So if you're watching this in 2030, they'll probably be claiming it's like 263 machines in one, but this thing has been great for my back. If you've been following the channel for a while, you know I had some back issues and ended up doing a lot of GHRs, back extensions, and other posterior chain movements that really helped me out. Now, I'm still not on board with this being a reverse hyper. The upper body kit is okay in a pinch, but we've already discussed better options. And this isn't making my list of best belt squats, but it does do a lot of other movements well. Full transparency, storing all the attachments for this thing does kind of suck, so I tend to cheat a little bit and throw things on a shelf that technically isn't in this 100 square feet, but what great influencer doesn't stretch the truth a little bit? My actual belt squat in here is Fringe Sports Mammoth with the kickstand and side weight horns. It works on both 5/8 inch and 1-inch racks. The kickstand allows you to start at the top of the movement, which is much safer, and the lever is long enough that you're not putting a lot of stress on your knees. Plus, Fringe's new side weight horns make loading and unloading plates easier than loading them vertically. It's solid, even if not my favorite belt squat, but it's also not a $7,000 setup like my Indie Rhino is, and it was my budget pick in our belt squat showdown video and is now as well. We saw the Black Widow universal dumbbell cart earlier, and what I like about this, besides the fact that I can roll it around and put whatever dumbbells on it I want, is I had him add this 3x3 upright to it, which allows me to store things on it. Right now, I've got Bells of Steel's shoulder boulder on here, and I can actually use it off the back if I want. But again, the beauty of 3x3 is its versatility. And in here, I need every inch of storage possible, which is why I had Wall Control's metal pegboard on the back doors and walls, but I'm in the middle of moving things around, so they're not up there at the moment, obviously. But if you're looking for a modular storage option, with the amount of hooks and accessories they offer and the fact you can use any standard size pegboard attachment on them, I've talked about Wall Control for years, and it's still my favorite storage option for a home gym. Let me know how I did on this build. What would you change, or what did I miss? Let me know. Thanks to our patrons for keeping this channel alive, and thanks for watching.